from your perspective as my mom, what was it like watching us hear that diagnosis? And that's in 2022 with the stage 4 diagnosis.
We're Megan and Justin, husband and wife, dog parents, and partners navigating stage 4 melanoma, bipolar disorder, and living with parents.
On Between the Scans, we share what life really looks like between the appointments, talking through each of our perspectives on the moments that challenge us, the humor that keeps us steady, and the ways we stay connected side by side.
Welcome to Between the Scans. I'm Megan.
I'm Justin.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a special guest. My mom, Deborah, is here, Henry's mom, Justin's mother-in-law, and we're so excited for you to be here.
I'm honored that you asked.
This is my crew. I was first diagnosed with melanoma in 2017, and my mom and my husband have just been my rock of support and have been through everything with me and have gone through it, and we just continue to go through it together. Just over 4 years ago, I had been experiencing a lot of pain in my back, my leg, and my hip on my left side. And we didn't know what it was, and at that time it wasn't suggested that it was cancer. So we took the initiative as a recommendation to go to an orthopedic doctor. We had plans to move back to Maine, and the plan was in 2022, June, we were leaving Florida. So I went to the orthopedics office and they couldn't diagnose it because it wasn't anything they typically see. And then we got a spine MRI and the results came back. It didn't say cancer, but it was very strange and that stuff wasn't right, and that they suggested a full bone scan. Is that coming back to you? Yeah,
right.
You've
Yeah,
been through
I
a
think
lot.
I
It's hard to
remember that.
remember. I remember talking to you, and you said, "What if the cancer's gone to your bone?"
I said that, really?
Yeah.
Out loud?
You said that to me. You go, "What if it's in your bone?" That's what I remember.
Right.
I heard
Sure
in
you
Florida,
remember that.
You said, "What if it's in your bone?" And I said, "It's in my bone. We treat it." That's all I could focus on. That's all I could think about. We were packing. The time was April into May of 2022. We were moving in June, so we had started packing. I did the best I could with the pain I was in. The results of the spine MRI looked very suspicious, and so my team here in Michigan said, "I want you to come here for a PET scan." They wanted to do it. So I flew here for the PET scan in May, and we were waiting for results, and you were at home in Florida with Elia,
Yeah.
and we got the results, and the results were very shocking and lengthy because, and this is where we were sitting actually, the results showed that the cancer had come back and that had gone to many places within my body. And so that included, if we want to go through it, at the time, my femurs really heavily here, and that's why I had all the pain. My back, my pelvis, my stomach. So this hip area, this whole area. And
You had tumors.
tumors. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, I had tumors in all of these places. We had to call Justin, and we had to go see the doctor in person because we got the call on the phone, and then we had to go talk to Dr. Lau at the time. And I just remember him saying, I'm paraphrasing, "You can't go back home, you can't get on a plane because either your femur's going to break and or you could get a blood clot. We've got to start treatment, we've got to get you x-rayed here because we have to see."
Do the surgery on your femur first.
Right.
That was the first thing.
So we called you again, you know, you were on speed dial, and we said you have to get here now. And you jumped in the car with Elia.
Yeah.
Remember what you had?
Just My hamper full of clothes, I think.
Yep, you had a laundry basket, you brought food, Elias food, poop bags, and a hamper of dirty clothes. I had brought my work computer and a small suitcase. That's all the clothes we had. Everything was in Florida. So I had to stay here and I had to start immediately getting treatment. But first we had the x-ray on my femur to confirm everything they thought, and then they got me in for emergency surgery to put the rod and screws to provide protection so that my femur wouldn't break, and that with cancer treatment my bone would grow back and everything would be healthy, but in the meantime they didn't want it to break because it was on the verge of breaking.
Right.
You got here with
You didn't
Elia.
know what was gonna happen with treatment.
No. No.
No, so you didn't know.
I don't even know
it was
what all.
gonna grow back.
No, I'm like a bone growing on a rod. What the hell is this? But you just go, and I was very sick also.
Yes.
I was getting sicker and sicker very, very quickly.
Right.
I wanted to ask you a few questions and get your perspective. All right, you ready for the question?
Ready.
All right, here we are. From your perspective as my mom, what was it like watching us hear that diagnosis? And that's in 2022 with the stage 4 diagnosis.
Well, it was like my worst nightmare coming true, because we had learned a lot about melanoma with your initial diagnosis of stage 3A or B.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew what a dangerous cancer this was. We learned how it's very, very aggressive. And that not that many years ago, melanoma was a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like super hyper about moles. My dad was always crazy, I thought, telling me, get that check, get that check. And
I didn't know that.
yes, yes. And I had a cyst on my back, and every time he saw it, or we'd be at a wedding or something, and he'd feel it when we're dancing, and he'd say, did you get it checked? And I said, no, it's just a cyst. But it's because melanoma was terribly dangerous. So what I was thinking when that happened, that when they said you were metastatic, stage 4, it's like they can't say anything worse. That's as bad as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just heartbroken. I was heartbroken for what it would do to your life. My head always spins forward more than it needs to, and gives me more to worry about. But it was very difficult to live in the moment. But I knew that you and I had always been close, and that I needed to, be strong. I needed to be strong.
Wow. Well, we moved in essentially. This one, you thought you'd be like, oh, we'll just be here for a little bit, and then we'll get back into our normal life,
Yeah.
and this will end. And I'm thinking like, oh yeah, that's true. We'll just be here for a few months, and then we got here, and also you were in a transition because you were adding an addition to your house because Steve,
My
who's
husband
doing fantastic, but
wasn't doing well at the time.
with the Lewy body / Parkinson's diagnosis, and stairs were an issue, and so we all were living together on the first floor and sharing.
Because Megan, you couldn't do stairs either.
No, I couldn't do stairs. I couldn't sit up and stand. I couldn't sit up. I was going to appointments laying down, and then how the road has all of the bumps.
Yeah, so we have a lot of
potholes.
potholes on our dirt road.
I remembered that recently of how I couldn't even. It was so uncomfortable. I couldn't even drive over them and be okay. It was just screaming in pain, and now we know why clearly.
Right.
Yeah.
So just at that time, I mean, I can't imagine being a parent or a spouse, because I remember so being so focused on myself, and then it took me a little while to go, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what my mom and Justin have to deal with to see me like this and to know what is happening in real time. So I'm just in awe of everything that we were able to do and get through this. And what was your thought process around figuring out next steps for treatment? Because initially the thought was we were going to have surgery here right away, and that was a no-brainer for me. I said no problem. And then it was going to be immunotherapy and then intense radiation right away. And they still had to do the scans, continue to do all of the MRIs and do more tests and scans so they could fully diagnose exactly how they were treating it and where they were treating it. So what was your thought process around figuring out the next steps with what we were doing and what was happening?
Well, we were just figuring it out day to day. Like every day was new. You were essentially non-functional in that we had to take care of you. You
Okay.
bad place.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't sit up. I
yeah,
couldn't even sit
and
up.
she was in terrible pain, and she didn't want to talk because it made everything worse. So she wouldn't tell you how she was, and you couldn't ask her how she was. Couldn't ask you how you were because
No.
it was just too hard.
It
It
was
was
too
all too
hard.
hard, and I was just learning how to interact with you around that. So treatment-wise, I had a lot of faith in the doctors and the type of care that we were getting, and but at the same time, the numbers were against us. So it was hard some days to really keep the faith, and in fact, it was easier to say, okay, what am I going to do if the worst happens? How am I going to live? Unfortunately, I just went there, and I worried about Justin, and I didn't sleep. It's your kid, and nothing will break your heart
No.
faster than your kid suffering like that. But treatment-wise, you were very focused. You were always very focused.
Yeah.
And
That's what
ready
got
to
us
do
through.
what they
Yeah,
told you
yeah.
to do. So
Yeah, I did
treatment was never really a question mark in my mind. The stuff that was harder were the scans and constantly getting news about where
Oh God.
it is and where it's gone.
Because afterwards, after the diagnosis in May, and I started treatment, I've had reoccurrences.
Yes,
Yeah.
you have. It's because it's very aggressive.
Yeah. All right, so I remember when we were getting the appointment going where we were talking about treatment and next steps, and they said immunotherapy, and I just remember, just put me in the chair, and then take me home, and then put me in the chair again and take me home. I did not want to have anything to do with information about it. That's how I processed it, to be able to manage it, to stay positive. I didn't want to talk about it. You had to talk to our friends about it, or your family about it. I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't say the word tumor. I wouldn't say I have cancer. I didn't say any of that. I just acknowledged it. I accepted it, and I needed treatment. And I remember in the appointment, my first infusion, there's a video to watch, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I said, I can't do that. You remember?
Oh yeah. You
I
made
see.
your mom watch.
I go, I can't do that. No, sign me up, give me the drugs. How is that going to help me? So I know I'm going to be nauseous and have pancreatitis and diarrhea. How is that going to help me? I just want to get it done. So I signed off on you guys having to
It
having
worked.
to do that. It worked.
Yeah.
But then when they put me on a different one, I had to actually go through the training. I go, oh, last time I got out of it. It was only because I was really,
That's
really
right.
sick that I got
You
out
were-
of it. I
yeah.
don't think they would have normally, you really have to do it. I did what I needed to do. I signed the documents. I acknowledged it.
Yes.
I did.
Yes.
I dotted all the I's and crossed the T's. But I just didn't sit. I couldn't hear all the information.
Right. And I'm an information junkie.
Yeah, at
So
the time I couldn't deal with that.
right.
But you probably got way too much information.
Not to mention what I looked up on my own. So yes,
Yeah, we didn't
way.
do that. We've
way
talked
more.
about that. I didn't look at the portal before.
Not in the beginning.
No, and I did not look anything up because I said I'm in treatment and I'm gonna be fine and
From the
that's
beginning.
it.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They treat
She-
you.
Put that vision out there and nothing else mattered.
And it's been, though many scans, a lot of treatment, a lot of radiation to even get here, and we'll also go more into that in a further episode, but just really getting to connect with you on when we heard that news and then what we were thinking and what next steps were. It was just, you're in an emergency. I mean, you're in a
Yeah,
state of
we're in a
emergency.
crisis.
You do not have time to think about it.
Right.
In my situation, it's an emergency. The last question I want to ask you, for myself, as well as I'm sure others would greatly benefit from this, what would you tell another parent going through this? And I'm sorry, that's probably a really hard question.
Well, I was used to you and I being able to talk about anything. And anything that worried me or anything on my mind or anything I wanted some
Yeah.
perspective about, I would talk to you and vice versa. So I'd say to other parents that the rules change for a while. And I had a therapist describe it to me like this, and that is, Megan is relying on us, okay? Megan's in the center of the circle. Justin and I are in the next level. The next level around that might be close family and friends. And you cannot talk about it toward the center of the circle. You can't move from your circle to the center.
No,
you can
you
move
cannot.
out. You can only talk to somebody who's in your circle or further out. But you can't expect anybody who's more in the center to understand or to be able to comfort you. We have always comforted each other. And so that was a really, really important lesson for me, is to find that comfort elsewhere. And I had to do that very deliberately. And use people
Yeah.
that I love in my circle to
Yeah.
do that for me.
Yep.
The other thing I really wanted to say about that is I often Googled adult child with cancer because it's different than if you were 6 years old and I
Yeah.
was in charge.
Right.
Like I'd been a single parent most of your life and I have always been in charge. And if I thought it was time to go see this doctor or take those lessons,
Yes.
you would do it. And
Yep.
it wasn't my call anymore. And I would encourage people to remember that this is an adult, it's still your child, but it is a grown person. This person is, 35, 40 years old now, and you have to respect that boundary. And that
Right.
was very traumatic. That was, not invading your privacy.
Yes.
Was an entirely new lesson for me, and I think it was very valuable
Yeah.
because we also had to do that as we learned to live together,
Yep.
was to express our boundaries and respect them.
Everything's always been together, figuring it out together, and next steps
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Everything.
Your whole life.
My whole life. Yes.
Right.
And I didn't have control. I lost control because this disease was in control, it felt like. So the little, what I could capture and have, I needed to keep. And I had, 2% of whatever I had inside to manage what I had to deal with. And so I couldn't give that to you and I couldn't give that to Justin.
Right.
So I was giving up my control as it was, and I'm controlling. I had to give that up, and so I couldn't even offer it. I had to internally, for a while,
You had to take care of yourself.
I had to take care of myself.
Only yourself.
And we were not at home.
Right, you were not at home.
We didn't have our stuff. Like
No.
we had a home, but
But-
we didn't know where we were
You had never
landing.
lived here.
No, and
This was
we
not
were
your
going
home.
through with Steve, and plus being uncomfortable and sick, and working and going on short-term disability, but managing all of the things. And then it just kind of, we figured it out as we went, and I reacted very well to treatment, and so that's a lot to think about, and that's really amazing that you're sharing that. I've never heard that. I'm glad that you could express that to us and then to everybody that
It could
wants
help
to-
anybody.
Yeah.
I
wants
was,
to watch.
I thought I was alone.
Yeah, and
Only because my husband was not well. So,
yeah, well, yeah.
so.
And unless you're in this house, I always feel like whatever someone's going through in their own house, no one else really understands it.
No.
And so you couldn't really fully understand, not just I was sick, but really how sick I was and what an aggressive cancer I was dealing with, am dealing with. And then managing it, and you being upset and frustrated, and then we're all living together to get through it together, and then keeping the food down. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that was definitely
Eating.
whatever you could,
Yeah.
you wanted at any
You
time.
guys forced me to eat because I didn't have an appetite.
Remember the
And then-
milkshakes?
Yes.
Those McDonald's shakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And we went after a month or so, and I was trying to eat again and add fat back onto the 40 pounds I had lost. We'd go out for McDonald's breakfast and then McDonald's shakes to get the
You
fat
do what
back
you
on.
gotta do.
Yeah.
Do you even believe where we've come and
We've
where
come
we
so
are?
far.
We were.
It's a miracle.
We got our stuff. Yeah, we'll talk all about that. We have our bed. It's been a journey. Not easy. We have all that, and then so I'm gonna wrap this up and just really thank you guys again for
Thank
doing
you.
this.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. You're coming back on. I hope you'll pop back on again.
You just tell me when.
We'll figure out when. And thank you all for listening, watching, spending time with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.